buckle your seatbelts, boys and girls, professor, or whoever is watching this at this spectacular time in your life, because in roughly 10 short minutes, I'm going to learn you a thing that I only knew the basics of when I was in middle school, and the rest I learned myself about 2 months ago. So sit down, shut up, and enjoy the experience of my midday cosmic energy, ADHD, unmedicated, hatred-fueled editing extravaganza about surrealist art. And what you're going to watch is damn near the best thing you will probably watch in a 2.5 minute time frame, if you're smart. Surrealism impacted history in many ways. It impacted the visual arts, literature, film, and music of many countries and languages, as well as political thought, practice, philosophy, and social theory. Surrealist art is art that consists of hyper-realistic and absurd elements, sometimes combined with illusions, and symbolism to attract attention by creating discomfort, similar to modern-day cursed images. It does this by taking standard, everyday items and twists them into something less recognizable. The inability to relate what you see to what you know and have experienced causes an uncanny valley feeling, because it looks almost normal, but you know that it's wrong. Surrealism dates back to the years after World War I and was initially made as a way to combine the realities of a dream and those of the real world into a single super reality, also known as surreality.
It soon became closely associated with political movements such as communism and anarchism. Pretty base, not gonna lie. And got influence from the Dada movement from the 1910s. Many surrealists used to be part of the Dada movement, but ultimately broke away from it because they found that Dadaism had an incapacity to build new positive values. It was in 1924 when Surrealism was officially created. Surrealism was the first literary movement.
Try that again. Where was that?
Surrealism was at first a literary movement, but soon artists all over Europe and the United States who had moved to Paris got involved. Some of the surrealist artists joined the early Communist Party. However, one of them, named Andre Breton, thought that they weren't going far enough with communism. As communism became more and more totalitarian, the surrealists began to struggle. They tried to participate as they saw it in the interest of the workers' revolution, while protecting themselves from the overbearing government. Finally, in 1933, the surrealists were denounced by the communists. Several surrealists spent the following years working in the Federation Anarchist. Oh, wasn't it Anarchista or something like that? Which eventually turned into the Federation Communist Libertaire. Federation Communist Libertaire.
Here is an excerpt from Andre Breton's The Lighthouse, written in 1952. It was in the black mirror of anarchism that surrealism first recognized itself. Well before defining itself, when it was still only a free association among individuals rejecting the social and moral constraints of the day, spontaneously and in their entirety. Among the higher spheres in which we encountered each other in the days following the War of 1914, and whose rallying power never failed, was Laurent Talahade's Ballad of Solness, which reads, "Strike our hearts in thorough, fairs and tatters, anarchy, O bearer of torches, drive away the night, crush the vermin, and raise into the sky, be it even with our tombs, the lighthouse that towers above the waves." What's that? You don't understand what that poem means. Skill issue. Moving on. Surrealism didn't erase Dadaism. It was still going on in the background, and what they got up to is important too. The work of the Surrealists brought attention to Dadaism, and vice versa. As it approached the 21st century, Dadaism and Surrealism moved on to increasingly modern topics. One such topic was women's rights.
Dadaism was famous for fighting authority and anything else they deemed to be bourgeois. Bourgeois. Anything else they deemed bourgeois. Despite this, Dadaism didn't fight the social conservatism that was sexism. To the Dada movement, women were still the second sex. Surrealism, on the other hand, had a more progressive view. While Surrealist art still objectify women often, it also gave them respect. Surrealist art would also often idealize women. It viewed them as beautiful, mysterious sources of inspiration. Other issues of the times included equal rights for Black people. Dadaism handled this in a not so graceful way. It's best if Dada speaks for itself. With this excerpt from the article, "We Need a New Skin Color: The Racial Imagination of Dada." But mostly, the racial other that concerned the Dadaist was African and Black. Hugo Ball wrote in Hulsenbeck in his diary.
Okay, wait a minute. I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but you are severely butchering this. Like, just let me do this real quick. Just this one thing. But mostly, the racial other that concerned the Dadaists was African, Black. Hugo Ball wrote of Hulsenbeck in his diary, quote, "He pleads for stronger rhythm, Negro rhythm," unquote. And indeed, Hulsenbeck liberally sprinkled his poems with faux African lingo, as Rasula puts it. And Sara, too, composed quote-unquote African poems. Several years later, even Gall would still be insisting we need modern Negro songs, whatever that means. Which, before you get upset with me, it is okay to be saying that because it is a quote with historical context. It's not racist. Surrealism doesn't have much historical record of advocating for Black rights, but there are modern-day Surrealists who use their art to push for equal rights. These Surrealists call what they do Afro-Surrealism. Afro-Surrealists use their art to talk about the right now. In other words, what is happening to Black people on a universal basis, exposing racial injustice through their art. Here are a few Afro-Surrealists if you're interested. David Alaba, Aleem Smith, and Adekunle Adeleke. I might have mispronounced those. They're not very Western names, but I've done my best. In the beginning, Surrealist art stood for anarchy and freedom, but now that politicized meaning is lost. In the modern day, Surrealism is mostly a way to express your feelings and ideas. People now make Surrealist art pieces for the enjoyment of it. But the fact that there are new iterations of Surrealism being created today proves the historical impact of Surrealism. Even though the end of World War II marked the end of Surrealism around the 1960s, people still make Surrealist art. It's just lost most of the meaning it used to have. This doesn't mean Surrealist art can't have that old politicized meaning. It's just most of it doesn't.
In conclusion, Surrealist art is a turning point in history because it empowered the early Communist Party before moving on to anarchism, all the while questioning social norms such as the patriarchal view on women and the hierarchical authority and persistent structures of many governments. It's now even being revived to bring attention to systematic oppression. And them's the facts.
Hello everybody, my name is Gwen Æther, and I'm proud to announce that this video is sponsored by nobody. Very unfortunate. However, I did almost get a sponsorship. They gave it a very serious consideration, but they had to turn me down in the end. However, I have hope that as I continue to post content in the future, they'll reconsider. So, in reality, this video was sponsored by me. The whole editing process was streamed live on Twitch. It took like a week and a half and over 50 hours of hard work, but I finally did it. I managed to create that piece of shit that you just watched. Now, here we are. So, if you hope to see anything even remotely similar to what you just watched, head on over and follow me. You don't have to or anything. I'm not gonna force you. You watching this video to begin with is already way more than enough. Next, I guess?